Hey everybody, it's me. I'm here to answer a pressing question on everyone's mind. Our alphabet, it's got 26 letters. That's a lot. We really need to know how to prioritize, so I've taken the liberty of examining each individual letter and placing them in a tier list, so you viewers can know which letters are worth your time and which are not. So let's get started. So first up, let's discuss the letter A. The creators of the alphabet knew what they were doing when they put A first. A is powerful. A is a letter of champions. Alexander the Great, Abraham Lincoln, Annihilation 3. Just sublime. This one's going straight into the S tier. Next we have B. After the show-stopping letter A, we take our foot off the pedal for a little bit. This letter's fine, but it really doesn't have any defining qualities. It's just kind of there, so it's going in the C tier. Speaking of C, we've arrived at the letter C. Now this one's an absolute classic, you really can't go wrong with this one. It is with absolute pleasure that I'm placing this letter at the top of the tier list, right next to A. Next up is D. Now I had a lot of trouble placing D, but ultimately I've concluded that it's a very underrated letter with a lot of power and gravitas that goes under the radar. This one's going into the B tier. And now we have E. Oh boy, here comes F. I really like the letter F. It is extremely satisfying to write in cursive, and it spearheads the best word in the English fucking language. It's not as versatile as some of the other letters might be, but it's damn good at what it does, so I'm putting it in the B tier. Next up is G. I feel like G has the opposite problem that F does. It's a bit too versatile. For example, GIF and GIF are two pronunciations that are very commonly used, and people have been resorting to blood sports debating this solitary pronunciation alone. Although this letter is great, this issue is a bit too big to be overlooked, so I'll have to put this one into B tier also. H. I like how it looks. It's got some solid construction. Don't have much to say about it. C tier, I guess. So now we have I. Now I is generally a fantastic letter, but there are two glaring flaws holding it back from the highest tiers. First of all, in certain fonts the capital I and the lowercase l look pretty much identical. And secondly, in order to write down the lowercase I, you have to lift your pen off the page to put down a dot. Even though phonetically, I is a masterpiece, graphically speaking it's a design catastrophe, and for this reason I have to put it in B tier. Next up is J. Many of the letters in this tier list are daring and inspiring works of art, but I'm sorry to say that J is not one of them. Guys, come on, it's just I but a bit danglier. You could just take it out altogether because G does its job anyway. This one's for the D tier. Moving on to K. I want to like this letter, I really do. But it's just a bit all over the place, and its only justifiable purpose is pairing it up with C. For that reason, this one's also going in the D tier. We've arrived at the letter L. Let me tell you, if we were ranking the letters by sex appeal, this letter would be in a league of its own. Although it has the unfortunate overlap with the capital I that we discussed earlier, its sheer power earns it an A tier spot. We'll officially be past the halfway point, which is a real shame because M is a really boring letter, and I'm putting it in C tier. Let's talk about N instead. It's just M, but it's been stripped down to its bare essentials, and it's much sleeker. It gets a bad rap because it's associated with negativity, but someone's gotta do it, and you can't deny it does a fine job. It's the bad boy with a heart of gold. Very solid letter. I'm gonna put this one in B tier. Next up is O. Haters will criticize its design for being oversimplistic and lazy, but I think this is a fine example of a simple and elegant letter. B tier it is. So now we're at P. I guarantee you, if you ask any person on this earth what their favorite letter is, no one will say P. It is true that the letter P serves a purpose in the alphabet, but it's so bland and unremarkable that I have no choice but to put it into C tier. Now let me be clear. The letter Q is fucking dog shit. Whoever thought it would be a good idea to include a letter for which it is necessary to pair up with another letter to use in your word is an idiot. This absolute travesty is very deserving of the F tier spot. Before I die of a stress-induced heart attack, let's move on to R. This letter is a breath of fresh air. You really can't hate this one. It's absolutely the cool kid on the block. A tier for sure. Next up is S. S is an absolute trooper, carrying the plurals on its solid back. As well as that, its onomatopoeic quality is arguably unmatched. This one is an easy A tier. Keeping this streak going is T. T is an undisputed god tier letter, but for some god-awful reason they make you lift your pen off the page to finish it. This bumps this letter down from an easy S tier to an A tier. And now we have U. It's easily the worst vowel, it just makes me sick. I'm putting it in the D tier and you can't stop me. V is the Chad version of U. It's got the oomph that U just doesn't, and it just looks sick. This one is solidly in B tier. When they were making W, they saw V and tried to replicate it, but W just doesn't have the same charm that V does. It's completely toothless. It's going into the C tier. Next up is X. This letter just baffles me. It's only marginally more applicable than Q is. The word they use to teach this letter to kids is fucking X-ray. When is the word X-ray ever gonna manifest in a casual conversation? I am certain the general population only knows what an X-ray is because no one could find a better word to showcase this letter. It's way too gimmicky and barely avoids F tier. Because it doesn't approach the awfulness that is Q, it's going into D tier. So let's look at Y. Y is interesting because no one really knows if it's a vowel or it's a consonant, but either way it rocks. This one's a B tier. Rounding out our list is Z. Z is the fun uncle you see at a family gathering but never really form a deep connection with. It can definitely add some wackiness and zest to your word, but it stands out a little too much to seamlessly blend in. This balances out at a nice C tier. Oh well, would you look at that, we're out of letters. If you liked this video, leave a like, and if you didn't like it, keep it to yourself.